So in this lecture, let us discuss quantization noise in delta modulation. In the previous lecture, we discussed the quantization noise in pulse code modulator, right? So let me start. Now let me represent my signal as m of t. Okay. Now this m of t is quantized by delta modulator. So this m of t has quantized, let's say this is my middle point. So either it can go up to plus delta or it can go down to minus delta. Okay, so therefore m of t is my signal, and this m of t has two components. Once you do the delta modulation, the output of your delta modulator is nothing but the staircase approximation. So m tilde of t denotes staircase approximation of m of t. Suppose you have a signal like this, then you take the step size, you wait this much duration and increase by certain amount, something called delta, and then again wait for some more time and increase the step size of delta. And this is my true value m of t, and this is my step size value. So this difference is called the error. Okay. So therefore you have m of t, and this one is error, but the actual transmitted value would be this one. This is the actual one, which is what you are transmitting. So that we denote by m tilde of t, staircase approximation. Therefore your m of t is equal to m tilde of t plus that error, let me denote e suffix q of t. Okay, here in this case it is e suffix q of t. Sometimes this same m of t can be m tilde of t minus e suffix q of t, depending upon the situation. For example, if you take here, then if you take here, then one second. This point and this point you compare, and this is my m tilde, this point is m tilde of t, and this one is error, and this one is your actual signal m of t. So here this m of t is m tilde of t minus eq of t in this case. So either you will get positive or negative depending upon your signal condition. Okay, now remember, what does this delta modulator do? Effectively, the delta modulator gives us a sequence of binary pulses. If you are increasing, then you are getting 1. If you are decreasing, you are getting -1, sequence of binary pulses, or 1 and 0. Okay, from this binary pulses you can generate a staircase approximation of m of t. So this m tilde of t is nothing but the staircase approximation of m of t, and m of t is your original input signal. Therefore m of t, let us take this case, m of t is equal to staircase approximation of this message plus the error which is occurring there, e suffix q of t. Therefore this error e suffix q of t represents the error at time t. At time t, the amount of error is denoted by this guy. Therefore, how do you get this e suffix q of t? It is nothing but e suffix q of t is equal to m of t minus m tilde of t, or you can put m plus of t also. So sometimes the error can be negative and sometimes the error can be positive. And of course, the magnitude of this error will always be less than or equal to delta. See, at the most you can go up to delta, or at the most you can go down to minus delta. So this eq suffix q of t is less than or equal to plus delta, less than or equal to minus delta. Therefore, if you take the magnitude, by the way, what is the delta? Step size. Okay, so and this is the condition when this is the condition in the absence of slope overloading. Okay, one second, let me denote this. In the absence of slope overloading. Okay, so it is all lies between minus delta and plus delta. At the most it can reach delta, but less than or equal to. If there is a slope overload, then this error becomes large. Okay, so therefore this has to be qualified only in the absence of slope overloading. So let me call this is equation number 1 and this is equation number 2, EQ of t, and you take the magnitude of this error, then E suffix Q of t magnitude is equal to m of t minus m tilde of t, and the maximum value it can take is delta, therefore let me put less than or equal to delta. If there is a slope overload, then this error becomes large. Okay, therefore this has to be qualified only in the absence of slope overloading. So one has to remember this. So let me call this is equation 3, and this equation 3 is valid only in the absence of slope overloading. Now, to be able to obtain the quantization noise for this case, this is noise, and this noise occurs due to what? Due to this your delta modulator. Okay, and due to this delta modulator, or let me call due to quantization noise, because you are taking the round off value, right, between the step size and the actual value. So this quantization noise, for this case you will have to make some assumptions. Okay, so we need to see, our objective is we need to find out the noise power in delta modulator and signal power in delta modulator. Okay, so this is the topic of this lecture. So we need to find out the noise power, and then we need to find out the signal power. So this is a noise term, and from this noise term I need to find out noise power. So in order to calculate the noise power, I need to make some assumptions, and the first assumption we would like to make is that the PDF, probability density function. Why? This is a random process, right? It is a random process. It's a random variable. It takes the noise will vary from time to time, so it's a random process. So we need to model it with the help of random process and random variables. So let us try to find the probability density function of this E suffix Q of t, and also assume that in this E suffix Q of t is uniformly distributed over the range. This is the assumption, okay, uniformly distributed, but in reality it may not be uniformly distributed, but to make our life simple we are assuming this condition, uniformly distributed in the range of minus delta to plus delta. And from equation 3, the magnitude of E suffix Q of t is less than delta. That means the values lies between minus delta and plus delta. So maximum you can have on one side is minus delta and the other side is plus delta. Therefore we will assume the PDF of E suffix Q of t, this is minus delta, this is 0, this is plus delta, is uniformly distributed between this and that. So this height will be 2 times delta, such that the area must be 1. This is the PDF. Let's say F suffix E of E like this. Therefore the total area is 1. Okay, so it is uniformly distributed in the range of minus delta to plus delta. And this assumption is supported by observation in practice for many kinds of signals. So the noise or error is assumed to be uniform over minus a to plus a. E suffix q of t is assumed to be uniform over minus delta comma plus delta. Therefore, the PDF of E suffix q of t, this is also assumed to be uniform over minus delta comma plus delta. Therefore, to make this assumption, then I can write the expected value of this E suffix q square of t, because our job is we need to find out the noise power and signal power in order to find out the signal to noise ratio of the delta modulator. Now let us try to find out the noise power. Noise power, since it is a random process, we need to take the expectation of E suffix q square of t is equal to integral of the density function E square times density function. Let me write down f suffix e of e and de. The limit is minus delta to plus delta, right? So minus delta to plus delta, then f suffix e of e is 1 by 2 delta, the density function, e squared, and de, this is 1 over 2 delta, e cube over 3, limit is minus delta to plus delta. So this is delta cube by 3. So this is the noise power. So we make an assumption that the noise is uniformly distributed. Now fortunately for us, not all of these noises is what you will finally hear after demodulation. See, this noise is spreaded up in the range of from minus fs to plus fs. Let's say the sampling frequency, right? So you have the m of t and the sampler is at the rate of fs. So the noise is uniformly distributed between these two limits. But in the receiver, we are planning to find out the signal power and noise power. When you calculate the noise power, finally you are going to employ the low pass filter, and the low pass filter has the bandwidth of W, right? There is an low pass filter, there is an LPF whose bandwidth is going to be governed by the signal bandwidth. What is W? Signal bandwidth. And the signal bandwidth is much less than the sampling frequency. Let's say signal bandwidth is 4 kilohertz and this could be roughly 20 kilohertz or something. So you are going to put a low pass filter with that bandwidth. How much bandwidth? Capital W. Whereas this noise is a broadband noise. This E suffix q of t is a broadband noise. It is a broadband noise. And no need to consider all this broadband noise because of this low pass filter. Anyway, the low pass filter is going to pass between minus W to plus W. Then no need to consider the remaining portions, only consider this portion alone. The total noise in this whole thing is going to be delta cubed by 3. But ultimately we are going to consider only this noise, because we are going to put a low pass filter at the output to remove the abrupt fluctuations or staircase approximations, to remove or to make it into a smooth fluctuations. Okay, because the error signal is undergoing very fast fluctuations. It is essentially some kind of a broadband noise. This noises. Okay, this noise is essentially a broadband noise. In fact, experimentally it is observed, this broadband noise. It is an experimental observation regarding the power spectrum of this noise, delta Q by 3. That E suffix Q of t has a fairly constant kind of power spectral density fluctuation or power density function. So this guy has power, and this power is delta q by 3. Now we need to find out power density function or spectral density function. Now what could be the range of my power density function, or what range should I consider? Should I consider 0 to fs or should I consider 0 to w? I need not to consider 0 to fs. Why? Because anyway I am going to put a low pass filter, and my low pass filter will allow the component up to w. It will reject the component in this range w to fs, rejected by low pass filter, and minus fs2 minus w also rejected by the low pass filter. Therefore when I want to now find the power density function, I need to consider power divided by the range of interest. What is the range of interest? 0 to w. Okay, so therefore in order to calculate the power density function between 0 to w, I mean 0 means DC, right? 0 hertz means DC and w. I mean no need to consider 0 to fs, but I need to consider 0 to w, where fs is the sampling frequency or the clock rate of the delta modulator. I no need to consider 0 to fs, only I need to consider 0 to w, where w is the maximum frequency of the message signal, clock rate. Therefore how do you find out the power spectral density function? Power spectral density function, you know the power, right? Power spectral density function of noise. Noise is equal to total power divided by the range of interest. Okay, so the range of interest is minus w2 plus w, so 2w, so delta q by 3 divided by 2w, this is delta cube by 6w, right? But this is the power spectral density at the output of my low pass filter. Now what I am going to do is, let me compute the power spectral density at the input of the low pass filter before passing through the low pass filter. In that case, the total noise power is going into the low pass filter. In that case, it is not going to be w, it is going to be f suffix x, total power. So you need to consider the entire range minus fs2 plus fs when you want to compute the power spectral density of the total noise power. Therefore 2fs, so this is 2fs, this is delta q by 6 times fs. Now this height is constant. Will it be a constant? It may not be constant, but most of the practical conditions we will assume that this is constant. Okay, in fact through an experiment you can observe that the power spectrum of this noise has a fairly constant kind of power spectral density function, okay, between 0 and fs. So here please remember that we are calculating the power spectral density function of noise before the low pass filter. After the low pass filter, fine, okay, delta q by 3 divided by 2 times w, this is fine at the output of low pass filter, and this is the input of the low pass filter, and this is what you are going to, this much amount of power is given to the low pass filter. Now we would like to know what is the output power, and this is the power spectral density at the input of the low pass filter. Now I would like to find out what is the output power. Instead of calculating output power spectral density, I need to calculate output power. Why? Because our interest is not output power spectral density, our interest is output power. And this power spectral density is passed through a low pass filter, and the low pass filter has the characteristics of like this, minus W2 plus W, and the height is 1. This is the low pass filter characteristics, magnitude response. Therefore, you simply multiply this, integrate from minus W2 plus W in order to calculate the output power. And why did I choose W? Because the W is the bandwidth of my signal. Okay, W is the bandwidth of my signal. And one more point. Okay, so I have the low pass filter, and the input is the noise E suffix Q of t, and this noise is generated by the process of delta modulation. Okay, this is generated by the process of delta modulation, right? And once you pass through the low pass filter, the output also contains certain amount of noise. Let me denote this noise as N suffix Q of t, where N suffix Q of t, which is finally observed after low pass filtering. So this is the amount of noise at the output of the low pass filter. So N suffix Q of t is, let's say, the response of the low pass filter. Response or output one and the same. Response of the low pass filter or the band filter, okay, base band filter. Low pass filter also you can call base band filter, because the filter is operating on the base band. Okay, response of the base band filter to EQ of t. Okay, the input is therefore E suffix Q of t, and the response of the filter is N suffix Q of t. Now the output is being generated by being represented by this N suffix Q of t. Essentially, these two are going to be different in the frequency domain. In the frequency domain, this guy is going to exist from minus Fs to plus Fs. Why minus Fs to plus Fs? Because your delta modulator is running at the clock frequency of F suffix S. But the output of your low pass filter has the cutoff frequency of W. Therefore, your NQ of t has the range from minus W to plus W. And this is E suffix Q of t, noise. Therefore, this N suffix Q of t has a bandwidth equal to W, and whereas this E suffix Q of t has a bandwidth given by F suffix S. So this is the essential difference between E suffix Q of t and N suffix Q of t. Okay, and you cannot say this Fs equal to 2W or W is equal to Fs by 2. This is completely wrong. Why? Why? In delta modulator, this Fs is much higher than W. Okay, remember our sampling rate in our delta modulation is much larger than the Nyquist rate. See, this is, by the way, Nyquist rate. Okay, but in delta modulation, our sampling rate is much higher than the, or much larger than the Nyquist rate. So there is nothing like Fs by 2, wrong. So it is going to be, this Fs by, okay, that's it. Therefore, our signal bandwidth is W. Because of the low pass filter must pass the signal, so that's the main requirement. We are putting this W. If you reduce less than W, then the signal will get distorted. Okay, so baseband signal must have a bandwidth corresponding to M of t. Our assumption is M of t is a message signal whose highest frequency is W. So therefore the bandwidth is W. and usually fs sampling frequency in delta modulation is going to be much larger than 2w in delta modulation. Delta modulation much higher. Therefore, let us find out the output power, output noise power, or noise power at the output of low pass filter. Simply we will say output power, which is, again this is a random process, right? You take expected value of n suffix q square of t. So this is power spectral density times the frequency range. Okay, now the frequency range is minus W2 plus W. So to find the area, this is a power spectral density, right? So you need to do the integration. So integral of power spectral density. What is the power spectral density? Just now we calculated. Where is it? Yeah, this is my power spectral density function. Delta Q by 6 times Fs. Let me call this power spectral density function as S suffix EQ of, it is in the frequency domain, right? F. So take this power spectral density and substitute here. X S suffix EQ of F density function times the area. So df, it's a power spectral density function, and the range is from minus w to plus w, and this is delta q by 6 fs df. Fs is constant, delta is constant, you can pull out. So once you do this integration, then delta, is it delta square or delta cube? I did a mistake somewhere else. Is it delta square or why did I put delta cube? I think here somewhere I made this. This is delta square by 3, I guess. Okay, let me check. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is delta square by 3. Delta square by 3. And delta squared. I'm sorry, I did a mistake. Delta square. So delta square by 3 times W by Fs. This is the output noise power. So we got the noise power now, right? So now our next job is we need to find out the signal power. Okay, so in this calculation we made a few assumptions regarding the nature of the noise that is produced by the delta modulator, and one was that the amplitude is uniformly, noise amplitude is uniformly distributed between minus delta to plus delta. That is one assumption, where delta is the step size that we have assumed for the delta modulator. And secondly, we said that the power spectral density function of this noise is also uniform. Okay, and this is uniform density between minus Fs to plus Fs. And this is my second assumption. So under these two assumptions that we made, we could calculate the noise power as seen at the output of low pass filter, and this noise power is this much. Okay, what is delta here? Delta is the step size of the delta modulator. And what is the W? W is the bandwidth of the signal. Bandwidth or highest frequency component present in the signal. Highest frequency component present in the signal. Okay, and this highest frequency component present in the signal, which is being delta modulator. And what is Fs? Fs is the clock frequency, okay, or clock rate or sampling rate. and W we know, Fs we know, and delta also we know. Delta is step size. So these are the parameters. Delta, delta, W and Fs. These three are the parameters of the delta modulator. And this is an attribute of the signal. Which one? Your W, which is being delta modulator. Okay, for example, you could have a situation like this, and in this case, this much duration you wait and increase by delta. Okay, so you just reach this point, and that is delta. Okay, you could have another situation. Maybe your signal is like this, you come down like this. Okay, where you just reach this point and come down. So here delta is like this. So in this case, delta is plus delta, and here is this is minus delta, or vice versa. So you could have both kind of situations, either plus delta or minus delta. And this delta is uniformly distributed. And this is my waveform. So the waveform is being tracked, and you could be tracking like that. Okay, you just go there and again go like this. You keep on track the waveform. And this is the waveform being tracked, and this will be tracking like this. It goes like this, goes like this, goes like this, tracking. And that's why the delta is from minus delta to plus delta. And moreover, this delta modulator is not like PCM. Okay, in delta modulator, in DM, we are not doing the quantization. No quantization. Okay, don't confuse with the quantization noise in the PCM. No quantization here. Okay, so we are not doing the quantization of the kind that we were doing in PCM. You are just trying to track the waveform. If the waveform is like this, you keep on track like this. If the waveform comes like this, then keep on track like that. While doing this tracking, you are making certain amount of error, and that error is called a quantization error. Okay, the limits are that limits are different here. Okay, and the error limit is minus delta to plus delta. Okay, and the other assumption that we made is that we are tracking within the slope overload limits. Okay, we assumed no absence of slope overloading. Okay, no slope overload. This is one more assumption we did. No slope overload. So how do you find out slope? See, this is the width and this is the height. So you have like this. What is the slope of this guy? Slope is equal to change in y-axis, right? Change in y-axis. Infinitesimal change in y-axis divided by infinitesimal change in x-axis. So infinitesimal change in y-axis, how much you are getting here? The change is delta. And this one is how long you are waiting? Sampling interval Ts. So this is the slope. So 1 by Ts I can write as Fs, delta times Fs. This is my slope. So as long as your slope is less than the slope of the signal, this is the slope of steps or delta modulator. So as long as the slope of the delta modulator is less than the slope of your signal, then you are in a safe condition. So under these limits that we can make these assumptions, because once we cross this no slope overload point, then our error can be much larger than delta at any point. So we are assuming here that we are working in the absence of slope overload distortion. Okay, we are working within the limits of the slope overload of the delta modulator. Therefore, the slope overload will be avoided when the slope of the delta modulator is less than slope of the message signal m of t. So this is the condition for no slope overload distortion. Otherwise, slope overload distortion will be observed. Okay, that's it about signal power. Let's move on to, sorry, that's it about noise power. Let's move on to signal power. Noise power we have calculated now. I don't know what did I say. Okay, so that's it about the noise power. Okay, let's move on to signal power. So this is as per the noise is concerned, where is it? As far as the noise power is concerned, this much you are getting, and we like to calculate the signal to noise ratio, so we need to find out the signal power. What we will do is, if you remember, our design procedure for the delta modulator is that we like to fix the step size from the slope overload considerations based on the highest frequency component that you would likely to have in your signal. Okay, because the slope overload condition depends on the maximum slope you can have in the signal. Okay, how will you choose this delta? Delta is chosen such that based on the nature of the signal. Therefore, you take m of t and find out the m dash of the slope. From the slope, you can find out what would be the delta. Therefore, from m of t, the slope again depends on the amplitude and frequency component of the signal. Okay, therefore the slope of the signal depends on the frequency of the signal as well as on the amplitude of the signal. Slope of m of t depends on amplitude of m of t. We will prove this now, nothing to worry. Amplitude of m of t and frequency of m of t, or highest frequency of m of t. Okay, let's assume that the highest frequency component present in m of t is capital W. Just for simplicity, let us consider the sine wave with that frequency. Okay, for simplicity, to make our life, I am going to consider cos of 2 pi omega t and assume that the amplitude is A. So this is my m of t. For simplicity, I am assuming this cosinusoidal function. Okay, I am assuming the signal to be, for simplicity, a sine wave. To get why should I assume like this? To get a closed form expression, nothing else. To get a closed form expression, we are considering this sinusoidal functions. But in practice, we never take cosinusoidal function and do the delta modulator. It's only for purely analysis purpose. Therefore, obviously, your low pass filter and the input is m of t and the output is, let's say, m naught of t, and the bandwidth is W, right? Therefore, this m of t is passed through the low pass filter without any disturbance. So again, in the output also you will get 2 pi Wt, because your low pass filter has the bandwidth of minus W2 plus W and the height is 1, so it will not disturb the message signal m of t. Whatever you transmit, whatever you give to the low pass filter, the same thing will appear in the output also. Your delta modulated signal is coming in this point, which has been integrated already, and that's been low pass filtered. So if your original delta modulated signal was this one, at the output of the low pass filter, the signal component will continue to be like this, assuming that this is the low pass filter, and this low pass filter has the bandwidth of W. That is, it allows frequencies up to W. It allows the frequencies up to W to go through. So the signal power that you will see here at the output of the low pass filter is going to be, how do you calculate the power? It is a cosinusoidal signal, right? How do you find out the power? Power is equal to A square by 2. Recall this calculation. You can get it this one. And more precisely, expected value of m square of t, m naught square of t. And I don't want to do this calculation because it is a deterministic signal. I have taken the deterministic signal. Straight away I can do the calculation without any PDF or without the help of random processes. Therefore, in any case, the power is going to be A square by 2. Therefore, output signal power is equal to a square over 2. Therefore, we have calculated the noise power and the signal power. I mean output noise power and output signal power. Therefore, the SNR is equal to expected value of output noise power, signal power, m square, because signal to noise ratio, right? Signal power divided by expected value of noise power nq square of t. Both we have calculated. This is a squared over 2, and in the denominator we have del square by 3 times w over fs. Rearrange this, you will get a square by 2, 3 by delta square times fs divided by w. This is what you will get. So this is signal to noise ratio of the delta modulator. Now we would like to use the restriction under which we are doing this analysis. That is under conditions where there is no slope overload distortion. That means there is a restriction on the value of A. Okay, no slope overload distortion. When will you get no slope overload distortion? When the slope of the message signal is less than the slope of the delta modulator, right? That's what we said. Now, what is the maximum, value of A and maximum value of W, or how can I, interpret further this expression? Okay, this expression. So we assumed m of t is equal to A times cosine of 2 pi Wt, right? So now you calculate this, what you call m dash of t. So this is 2 pi w A times cosine of 2 pi Wt. Therefore, the slope m dash of t is what? Slope. The slope is directly proportional to, okay, before that let me find out the maximum slope. Maximum slope is 2 pi A W. Because this cos 2 pi Wt, the maximum value is going to be 1. Maximum value is governed by an equation that because the maximum slope of the sine wave will be 2 pi A times W. And this slope is coming from the sine wave. And what is the maximum slope of your delta modulator? Like this, it keep on goes, and this step size is Ts, and sorry, this width is Ts, and this height is delta, and this is my slope. So infinitesimal change in y axis, that is delta, infinitesimal change in the x axis, that is Ts. So therefore, slope of delta modulator is equal to delta by Ts, that is delta times Fs. So when will this slope overload distortion will not occur? When the m dash of t, maximum of m dash of t is less than slope of delta modulator. What is the maximum slope of your message signal? 2 pi AW is less than delta times Fs. So therefore my A can be less than or equal to delta times Fs divided by 2 pi W. Okay, so therefore let me take the maximum value. So A can be delta times Fs divided by 2 pi W. This is the maximum amplitude which can be allowed in order to avoid the slope overload distortion. If A exceeds this value, then definitely there will be a slope overload distortion. Okay, so all this analysis are very important because we are working within that constraint. So let's look at the maximum possible value that you can have for A. So this is the maximum possible value. So if you take this maximum value, then you can maximize the SNR. So the larger the value of A, the larger the SNR. The larger the SNR I get. Okay, but there is a limit on the maximum value of A. You cannot indefinitely increase the value of A. Yes or no? Okay, because your SNR is equal to A square by 2 3 by delta square times Fs by W. So the SNR is increased if you increase A. But if you increase A, then what will happen? There will be a slope overload distortion. But this whole SNR is derived under the assumption of no slope overload condition, under the absence of slope overload condition. So I cannot indefinitely increase this A value. So there will be some maximum limit. What is the maximum limit I can do? This is the maximum limit. Del Fs divided by 2 pi W. So delta times Fs. I'm sorry, this is A square. Delta times Fs divided by 2 pi W whole squared by 2, right, times delta square by 3 by delta square. I'm sorry. 3 by delta square times Fs by W. You simplify this. If you simplify, finally you will end up with 3 by 8 pi squared, then Fs by W whole cube. So this is the signal to noise ratio of the delta modulator. So we have this expression for SNR in a delta modulator. So the maximum SNR depends essentially what now? Two things. If you increase the sampling frequency, then the SNR is increased. That is obvious, right? So two parameters. One is sampling frequency. By the way, this is the maximum SNR, maximized SNR. Therefore, the sampling rate Fs and the bandwidth. So the maximum SNR depends essentially on the sampling rate Fs and that you use, and the bandwidth of bandwidth that you have for the signal. So W and Fs, these two. Therefore, SNR directly proportional to Fs and inversely proportional to W. Clearly, if the sampling rate is increased, then the better SNR you will get it. Okay, the larger the sampling rate that you use, the larger the SNR that you will get, because you will get a better staircase approximation for your original signal. Okay, so instead of taking like this, you will take like this. So very smaller duration. So that means larger amount of Fs sampling rate. So there is a clear trade-off between the sampling rate and the performance. If you increase the sampling rate, then obviously there are some other consequences that you need to consider. Okay, so I think this is clear now, and the slope of the signal is, where is the slope of the signal? 2 pi AW. From that only we got this maximum value, and the slope of the signal must be less than or equal to the slope of the delta modulator, which is delta Fs. So this is the assumption that we consider in this analysis. Okay, so that's it about quantization noise in the delta modulator, or signal to noise ratio in the delta modulator. Okay, now we are ready to carry out some kind of comparison between delta modulator and pulse code modulation. So we need to compare delta modulator and pulse code modulator. Now essentially, if you are in a situation to compare two communication systems, then you can compare on the basis of SNR. Okay, so what is the signal to noise ratio of one particular system, and what is the signal to noise ratio of another particular system. But it is meaningful to do so provided we are using the same communication resource. And for example, this guy uses, let's say, W1 and this guy uses W2, different communication, different bandwidth, then it is unfair to compare with the signal to noise ratio. Both the guys should use the same resource, then only the comparison will be meaningful. Same resource or same amount of resource. So in this case, the communication resource is bandwidth here. So the two will become comparable if we make sure that the bandwidth uses are identical. If the bandwidth used is identical, only then it is meaningful to talk about their performance comparison. One guy is using much higher bandwidth than the other guy, then you cannot go and compare these two systems. Okay, so we should do performance comparison by first ensuring that we are doing it under similar bandwidth conditions. So the comparison can be done under similar bandwidth condition. Okay, so we will do this comparison analysis in the next class. So let me stop at this point. Thank you very much.